You ready? Good afternoon, everyone. This seems particularly loud tonight. It's an empty chamber. We're not used to this. We feel lonely. Welcome to Legislative Day number 16. This is a work session for September 30th, 2025. Last day of September. October is tomorrow. So first up, we have Mr. Boswick. I'm confused. Should I go with, I'm going to go to final reading and vote.
Approval of fiscal matters, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yes. Okay. So we have Ms. Deb Schindel up first, Chief of Property Management on International ChemStar Incorporated for water sampling and testing services. Sounds very exciting.
It always is.
That makes me feel comfortable. Something threatens to fire the generals on the spot.
He's going to run the military.
Good evening, Councilman Chair and members of the County Council. The administration is requesting an approval of a purchase order with International ChemStar Incorporated in the amount of $41,112.50 for potable water sampling and testing services at various county locations. The vendor will extract 115 samples from 21 county locations to test for bacteria and metals and will provide mediation service if required. We are happy to take any questions that you may have on this request.
Ms. Schindel, as far as testing goes, are most of these facilities, I would imagine, are on city water. It's
Correct.
It's more to determine if we're getting lead in the pipes or
Yeah, so
somehow other
correct.
chemicals or pollutants that are in the water somehow that.
Correct. So you are correct. The ones that, the sites that are on a well are already mandated for testing for either by MDE or by the health department. We currently have 21 facilities that are built before 1960s that we are doing a proactive bacteria and metal test on. And the reason that we chose those sites is because prior to 1960, lead was allowed to be used when you did new construction in those facilities. So we're doing this as a proactive measure because after 1960s, you were not allowed in Baltimore County to use lead to build buildings. So you wouldn't necessarily have that lead in the potential water. So we decided to add these 21 sites onto our regular testing program and do it every 3 years as a proactive approach to ensure that there is no lead going into the water system where individuals are drinking.
Okay. And they don't already have like Deer Park water or something like that where we're testing and they're not even drinking the water.
Oh, no, these are not sites where there are already Deer Park water in them. Okay. Yeah, or whatever water system. Right, I know what you mean, bottled water system.
Bottled water system,
yeah, correct. Yeah. Right, yes.
Not Deer Park.
Right, I know what you mean, whatever county contract we have, sir, yes, you're right.
Any other questions from the members? Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up we have Mr. Lawrence Richardson, Deputy Director of HHS, about residential treatment services. How are you, Mr. Richardson?
Mr. Richardson also, I think, is here for the Bill 5825, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Did you? Oh, you want to cover that while we're here? Might as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You want to do the fiscal matter first, and then we'll do
yes,
Bill
sir, I can do that.
5825?
Yes.
Okay.
So good afternoon, Chairman Ertel, members of the council. The administration is seeking your approval for a contract and lease with Gardenzia to provide medium intensity and clinically managed high-intensity residential services to individuals suffering from substance use disorders. The initial term of this agreement will be 3 years and have 3 one-year renewals. The contract and the lease with Gardenzia will help continue to provide the residential substance use disorder services at the county-owned and managed property, the Richards Building in Owings Mills. Gardenzia will provide substance use disorder treatment services to appropriate clients to include, but not limited to, medium intensity managed population residential services, to include, but not limited to, the American Society for Addiction Medicine Level 3.1 clinically managed low intensity residential services and clinically managed high intensity residential services. The vendor will provide services to both female and male residents with a max of 80 bed capacity, and the vendor operates 24 hours, 365 days a year. I also received some follow-up questions from the auditors in reference to the contract, and I'm assuming they're referring to the attachment A, section 1.5, where we state that the contractor will allow individuals to be admitted to the facility 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For adults 18 years of age or older, the contractor shall not refuse admission of individuals based upon their type of insurance coverage. The contractor shall admit into the facility a fair number of Medicaid covered clients. So in reference to the question from the auditor, the question was in reference to the statement I just read. So we advise that one of our roles through Maryland Department of Health would be to provide uninsured individuals access to substance use disorder treatment through the Administrative Services Organization, Carillon Behavioral Health. So any substance use disorder provider that accepts Medicaid can request an uninsured authorization through MDH. So that's how we would be able to cover uninsured and underinsured clients who were coming to the facility. And then I'd be happy to take any other questions.
Any questions from the members on the treatment center? Councilman Potopa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Richardson, how long has Gardenzia been there? It's been 4 or 5 years, something in around?
The current one, yes, it's going on 5 years, I believe.
In the Richardson building?
In the Richards building,
Yeah.
Richards.
So I just want to share with my colleagues that Gardenzia has a really good program. They visited both sites. They have one in Park Heights, one in Owings Mills. And when they first moved in, there was a lot of concern about Gardenzia, especially because it was located next to a Jewish day school. And Gardenzia and the day school worked together. And quite frankly, it's been 4 or 5 years, and the program's running well. They've been great neighbors, so it's a job well done on this one, Mr. Richardson. Thank you.
Good to hear. Any other questions? All right, you want to move on to 5825?
Yes, so Bill 5825 is the administration seeking your approval for a supplemental appropriation of state funding in the amount of $449,999,000 to our AIDS case management grant program. The funding will primarily go towards the salaries and benefits of 7 positions to provide non-medical case management services to our eligible HIV-positive Baltimore County residents, as well as to provide the subsidies, including food vouchers and rental assistance and transportation for HIV-positive county residents who meet the criteria of the Ryan White program. I'd be happy to take any questions on the supplemental appropriation.
Any questions from the members on 5825?
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. How's everybody? Appreciate your time tonight. So the first one is for digital display signage. The Office of Information Technology is requesting approval of a contract for digital display signage. The county has an immediate need to replace an outdated sign that was recently removed from the Woodlawn Police Precinct. This request is to assist the county's ability to effectively communicate important information to the public. The new digital media sign from Daktronics offers a significant upgrade by allowing dynamic content updates, such as police activity announcements, weather alerts, community outreach messages, and facility address and safety information. The county is utilizing a competitively bid agreement from the Keystone Purchasing Network contract, in which Baltimore County, Maryland is a member. The initial term of the agreement is from council approval until February 28th, 2026, with the option to renew for two additional one-year periods. Funds will be encumbered by purchase order as needed and shall not exceed the sum of the county council approved appropriation during the entire term, including renewals thereof. All work performed through these agreements will be requested and overseen by the Office of Information Technology. Happy to answer any questions. We have 3 sites that are planned. It's this one, the White Marsh and Rosedale Libraries. And then it's about $50,000 per sign, so it gives the ability to do about 10 sites total under this contract.
Never mind, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Martin just answered my question. I was just wondering about the cost. Now I realized that 50,000 a piece is about in line with my experience with digital signs, so it makes sense now. Thank you. A little eye-popping. I thought it was one sign for $500,000. Seems a little, yeah, it seemed a little steep. Yeah, we got it cleared up. Thank you.
Mr. Martin, I'm assuming these were developed in collaboration with the library system, right?
I'm sure we worked with the library directly, but we also work with property management as part of replacing capital buildings as well. So a lot of these are included in the capital projects as we're redoing facilities.
I'm just curious why the Perry Hall Library, their sign is woefully out of date, and the whole sign looks very weathered. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So.
Thank you, and I'll consult with property management as well for that and find out if there's anything we can do. Okay, next one. So this is for, I think 3 contracts for CCTV access, installation, and maintenance. The Office of Information Technology is requesting approval of 3 contracts awarded via competitively bid solicitation and RFP for CCTV access systems, installation, and maintenance. The contractor shall provide all the time material, labor, and incidentals necessary to design, install, and maintain physical security and video surveillance systems located within approximately 150 locations. About 160 of these locations have CCTV and or card access, the Linnell readers installed. This is supported with more than 140 control panels that accommodate over 1,200 card access readers and incorporate over 2,000 physical cameras, 2,900 streams, and 70 NVR servers. The initial term of each agreement is 1 year with the option to renew for 4 additional one-year periods. Funds will be encumbered by purchase order as necessary and shall not exceed the sum of the county council approved appropriation during the entire term, including renewals thereof. All work performed through these agreements will be requested and overseen by the Office of Information Technology. And I do have an auditor question as well for this. That was, please explain why the proposed contracts supersede the existing contracts which expire on October 28th, 2025, given that the existing contracts provide more favorable pricing. Though the pricing is more favorable in the existing agreements, the proposed contracts better address the county's requirements, contract management needs, and past performance concerns. For example, support under the new agreement has been updated to add the contractor must provide a 1-hour support response for after-hours emergencies. And so the new contract includes pieces that were missing from the old one to hold the vendors accountable and provide better services.
Any questions from the member?
All right. Thank you so much.
Well, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the council. Tonight, we'd like the approval from the administration of a contract with Guardrails, et cetera, to maintain, replace, and repair existing guardrail and furnish and install new guardrail throughout the county as needed. The contract will commence November 2nd, 2005, and continue for 1 year with automatic 4 additional renewals. The contract that the compensation may not exceed the appropriated amount for services for the entire contract, and we estimate a total of $4 million for the entire 5-year, 4-month term. We did get a few auditor questions about this was the sole bidder, and they talked about the price comparison, because some prices did escalate, but as we know, during the past 5 years, a lot of prices did go up a whole lot. And while some of them did go over 50% of the previous price in 2020, if you look at the items, a lot of items are, the brown poly coated guardrail, which is usually an expensive item itself, and we try not to use it as much, and some of the larger items that we rarely use throughout the county. We're requesting the approval of amendments to 13 of our snow removal contracts. This amendment is part of the new pay structure with State Highway Administration since we follow their contracts. It allows the contractor a no calling guarantee. We talked about this a few weeks ago with 3 of our other contractors. And if you're not called in, we guarantee you'll get at least $3,000.
Okay. Councilman Patoka.
Is that normal business to have kind of it's a retainer? Is it a retainer? Is that the right?
We don't pay a retainer. I believe the state pays a retainer. We actually pay an inspection fee. I think it's based on the equipment that you do have, where in November we go out and actually inspect your equipment, make sure it's something that we're going to use, and then we pay a fee, an incentive towards that. Also, at the end of the year, if you're at every snowstorm, there's an incentive that gets paid out for that also. But this is something new with the state this year, where if you don't get called in again, you're guaranteed $3,000. And I talked about a few weeks ago, it helps the contractor with the cost of carrying the insurance and the wear and tear on their trucks.
Okay, thanks.
Is that separate from the Alexander Cater, or is that all wrapped?
Yeah, we're requesting a retroactive approval of this contract with Alexander Cater, doing business as catering landscapes to provide snow removal services throughout Baltimore County. The contract actually commenced November 1st, 2004. It's going to continue on until June 30th of 2025, and we did not exceed the $25,000 without the council approval during that time period. Once the contract's approved, it'll be 4 additional 1-year approvals with the option to extend the initial term 120 days. and it's for 2 one-ton pickup trucks.
Was there a reason this is separate from the others?
This is a brand-new contract.
Okay.
We lost a few, unfortunately, of the bigger trucks. Not saying anything about some of our partners, but, you know, it's easier to plow 2 miles of beltway than it is to get in the middle of a neighborhood and really beat your truck up turning right for 4 hours.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the members on? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Next up, we have Bill 5225 from Council Members Patoka and Marks, Historic and Architectural Preservation. This has to do with issuance of a demolition permit. Councilman Patoka, did you want to
Sure, thank you, Mr.
talk about this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill is essentially proposed to eliminate, I'm going to call it reckless demolitions of historic properties, and so to make sure that we can preserve them. There's a couple of amendments here, and I'd ask the secretary, council secretary, to present those.
Certainly, there are essentially 2 amendments to the bill being offered by Councilman Patoka. The first would amend the current county law. The current county law states that the council shall adopt a final county landmarks list within 90 days after the council holds the required public hearing. If there is no council action, then it automatically, a structure is automatically taken off the preliminary list. What the amendment would do is require some action by the council either to approve or disapprove the adoption of a structure to the final landmarks list within that 90-day period after the public hearing. And then the second amendment, and both of these were discussed with the administration and worked with. The second one would incorporate language that was suggested by I believe, MHT, which would allow delay of a demolition permit, and it would state that in accordance with the land use article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, the Landmarks Preservation Commission would have the authority to delay the issuance of a demolition permit for a period of no less than 90 days in cases of structures that the commission deems to be of unusual importance to the jurisdiction, the state, or the nation. And again, this language is taken from the section of the land use article to which it refers.
Thank you.
Nothing else? Any questions from the members on Bill 5225? Seems like we've spent a lot of time on it. A lot of,
Important issue.
I understand.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we have some
Oh, we have
speakers on this.
speakers on 5225.
Yes. Our first speaker is Brad Croner, who is here
Mr.
in
Croner,
person.
how are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good. I'm sorry, I didn't,
Used to a bigger crowd.
I'm used to a bigger crowd. I'm always anticipating speakers and.
Right. Chairman Martell, members of the council, I'll be brief. I just want to thank Councilman Patoka and Councilman Marks for working with the administration on this. I think this bill landed in a really good spot. Thanks for the partnership and for advocating for this really important issue. We fully support the bill with the amendment. And again, appreciate the time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Croner. Any questions for Mr. Croner before he's not riding off into the sunset because he's testifying later too? And then we have another speaker, right?
Yes. Our next speaker is Anne Grishon. Are you there?
Yes, hi, how are you? Yes, thank you.
You may begin when you're ready.
Hello, Anne.
Hi, hi, how are you all? I apologize for not being there in person, but I have a cold today. So, yeah, so appreciate it. So we very much support the First Amendment to the bill. That will most definitely help keep situations like the Choate House from being demolished from occurring again. But we do have questions, and we do not support the Second Amendment. because what it really does, it effectively neuters the bill in spirit and practice. The proposal amendment would allow the Landmarks Commission to occasionally just pause the demolition permit for the 90 days, but it would be based upon, one, their discretion, and it would only consider a building if they deem it to be unique. And this is inappropriate for several reasons. Firstly, because the reason of all the three bills is the issue of the Landmarks Commission repeatedly voting down protecting significant historic properties, along with signing off on their demolitions, hence the need for oversight. Secondly, in their letter, the Maryland Historical Trust states that such action is mainly to have 90 days for mitigation measures, which really just mean things like taking a photograph here and there, documentation of that sort, and that would still allow for potential demolition, and that really isn't historic preservation. So, and notably, the recent letter from MHT repeatedly uses words like should and rather than must. And this will not, this does not support stricter preservation measures and protecting historic buildings, which is supposed to be their mission. So this demonstrates clearly that these are suggestions and not legal imperatives. So also for Bill 52, we would also prefer language be maintained that the Maryland Historic Inventory List is used as a reference point. I know that's not an amendment right now, but it's something that we discussed. If the council prefers to just use a 75-year mark to vet historic buildings, we understand that that may be the best course of action. So we also want to make sure that all the other language would remain in the bill and wouldn't be just replaced by the provision for the 90-day unique option, because that would really not help in why these bills exist right now in terms of, again, having more safeguards and safety nets to protect our historic buildings. And we did send a letter with some of our remarks to all the council people. I apologize, it was a little bit late today, but you should all have those in your mailbox. So again, we do support the First Amendment, but we object to the Second Amendment. Because again, it will do very little, if anything, to help protect historic buildings.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Okay. And I think that's all the speakers on this bill. Okay, thank you, Ms. Belcastro. Next up, we have Bill 5325 from Councilman Marks, Maryland Model Floodplain Ordinance. What's Bill 624? That was the original bill, correct?
That might have been the original bill. Okay. Yeah, so thank you. I'll be very brief on this. This was an attempt to address some concerns from constituents in Middle River about the impact of the adoption of this floodplain ordinance, specifically property owners who were basically caught in the review process and were denied simply because of the original enactment date of the Bill 624. I understand the administration, through repeated conversations with me, has said they oppose this and they claim that this would violate state law. I've told the administration today that I'm happy to have a conversation with the Maryland Department of the Environment and probably will not advance this bill. But I, at the same time, would hope that the administration would try to find some solutions for me. I'm going to be very honest. This floodplain ordinance has been very controversial in the east side of Baltimore County. There's a lot of complaints about the extent of this. Maybe it's something that needs to be worked out with the state legislature. I don't know. But on the other hand, I'm looking forward to having that conversation with the Maryland Department of the Environment. Certainly don't want to proceed in a way that's going to have a ripple effect on floodplain programs throughout the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Marks. Sorry. I think we have two speakers on this as well.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Croner, again.
Mr. Chair, before
Yes,
Mr.
Councilman Crandall,
Croner
sorry.
begins, just a question maybe for you, Bradley. So you and I had a brief conversation on this, I think, before the last work session where we considered this bill. And I've talked with Councilman Marks and a couple other of my colleagues on the council, and one of the things that we're hearing from the administration is that it may be in changing, in following through with this bill and voting to approve this bill, that we would be basically changing the map to such that it would impact homeowners' ability to get flood insurance if they're in the floodplain. Where does that information come from? Because I guess the genesis of it that filtered to us and the council came from the administration.
Right, that came to us from the Maryland Department of the Environment, from the Flood Administration Program, from the National Flood Insurance Program. We have to be in compliance with the Model Floodplain Ordinance.
Okay.
That was included also in the letter from MDE that was sent along to council.
Okay. So there is definitive documentation. Unfortunately, I haven't seen that yet. It just hasn't been put across my desk by my staff. So we do have definitive information that this bill would impact exactly what I said it would from MDE. That's MDE's contention.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you, Councilman Crandall and Councilman Marks.
So, Mr. Croner, if the original bill had said that that bill, what was it, 624, did not apply to any applications that were in the process of being approved, then the couple that came before us would not have been affected, correct?
I don't know for sure. It's possible.
It's just frustrating for me that all the time, the council, and this goes back well before any of us were elected, we grandfather projects into the development process. And here we have a couple that was caught in this process at the very end. They get all the way to the end and the rules change for them. It's just really frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. I certainly understand that this stems from unique and challenging circumstances, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
I still would like to see if there's a way we can work through this with
Yes,
the
sir.
state. I just don't think it's fair for them. And we should try to work toward a solution.
I agree. I am happy to reach out to MDE and arrange an opportunity for us to meet with them to talk more about regulations and how we could work together.
Okay.
But certainly open to continuing the conversation. I know this has been a challenge for constituents in
Yeah,
the district.
and I thank you for your reaching out. You've remained in communication with me. I do appreciate that. It's just, it seems like we sometimes, there's different standards. And I want to make sure that we're looking out for those families that are impacted by these issues as well as other entities.
Right, I understand.
Mr. Chair, if I may again?
Yes.
For both of you directly involved in this, have there been conversations, have there been any offers either from the state or the county to potentially mitigate this situation? I'm thinking about, I know it's a completely different issue, but I'm thinking about how critical area matters are managed. And there are both mitigation fees and different things that property owners can do in order to mitigate the circumstances. Has there been thought or any conversations in order to help these folks out?
I think we'd really like to have some of those conversations and see what we can do for sure. I think we just need to have continued dialogue with MDE and potentially the state legislature to see what options there may be. But definitely open to supporting those conversations.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, absolutely. It does seem a little, and I don't know if it's because we're passing a bill, but it seems somewhat rash that we have basically one homeowner, and we're going to be penalized. We're going to be penalized in the sense that we're not going to be subject to FEMA reimbursement, or that people would be able to buy flood insurance that's subsidized through the NFIP because of one property owner. And again, it might be because of a bill, whereas hopefully there's a way to work this out for this situation. And I think it's also a situation where the homeowners know the risk. They're building a structure in a floodplain that's more of a ancillary structure. It's not a home.
Right. So what I think I'm probably going to do is withdraw this bill and reintroduce it. I know we do this a lot these days, but quite frankly, as in the example of the historic preservation bills, we sometimes come to a good place. So I think that's where I'm going to be on this.
Okay, I look forward to continuing to work with you on this. I'll try to get in touch with MDE sometime tomorrow morning and see if we can get a meeting on the books for the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Marks, do you think it would be helpful to have the state?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. So,
Yeah, okay.
okay, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Croner.
Mr.
And
Chair.
I know we have another
Yeah,
speaker.
we still have another speaker on this item.
Okay, you want
Okay.
to, Mr. Stella?
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to.
He was on twice.
Oh,
You may go ahead, sir.
we thought we were at a Jimi Hendrix concert.
Mr. Stella.
Yes.
Okay, you may begin your testimony whenever you're ready.
Oh, can I continue? Okay.
It's Mr. Stella, sorry.
I'll be very
digress.
brief since the bill has been withdrawn. I am a resident with waterfront property. And as the bill goes back to be reviewed by David Marks and the state, and if it does come forward again, I would like to see maybe the square footage be increased. Having accessory structures between 300 and 600 kind of captures everybody in the waterfront. And to comply with the flood regulations for an accessory project does require a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of time and effort. And a lot of these projects, all we're trying to do is to either improve the project that was from 1940 to make it usable again. So with the new regulations, it really strangles us and puts a lot of difficulty in us to meet the requirements for the project. So that's what I wanted to get my point across today. Thank you again for listening and considerations and all the work you do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stella.
Thank you.
Yep.
And this is Mr. Stella, just to clarify, I'll be withdrawing it and reintroducing it.
Yep.
So it's
I
used
understand.
dialogue for another month.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Marks. Okay, we actually have two bills that we don't have testimony tonight because one is Bill 5625 from the Fire Department on the Maryland opioid restitution funding for FY 2026. Lieutenant Captain Wenzel testified at the last work session, so she's excused tonight per our kind of rules. And we have another bill from 5725, cold case testing. It was a private grant, and Captain Buckingham had testified at our last work session on that. So while they're on the docket, we're not discussing them unless anyone has questions, concerns, or feedback on them. So we'll move on to Bill 5925, which is from Councilman Patoka, zoning regulations, exceptions to the residential transition areas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill has to do with a Jewish day school doing a bit of an addition, and they have been meeting with the community, and everyone has come to agreement on this, so there's harmony in the community on this one. I think, Mr. Secretary, we have an amendment on this. If you wouldn't mind presenting that, that would be great.
Sure. Yes, sir. There is one amendment. The amendment would add language, would substitute actually language that specifies an Orthodox Jewish school to be an existing private school at that location. And it would allow a one-time addition. It specifies that it would allow a one-time addition to that existing private school.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? All right. Next bill up is Bill 6025. This is from Councilman Jones. Zoning regulations, uses permitted in the residential office RO zones. Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, to make a very, very long story short, this bill currently in the residential office zones, you can have barber shops and beauty salons. And what this bill will do will enable folks to have a day spa in the same space. And it comes in handy because of a particular property owner who wants to start braiding hair. So they would need this zoning regulation change. So, and it is confined to just areas right there in my district on the west side of Baltimore County. Any questions?
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Jones. Any questions for Councilman on this?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Sure. All right, next up, we have Bill 6125. This is from Council Members Jones and Young, Revitalization Property Tax Credit.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I'll start off. Basically, this will incentivize some development in areas of Al County, mainly the Metro Center in Owings-Mill, as well as the Security Mall. This is an example of basically us trying to incentivize growth in areas that, to be quite frank, that has been around. Both of these projects are at different stages of redevelopment, whether it be very new to Security Mall or halfway through at the Metro Center. But either way, we need to provide the incentives to keep projects like this going, because there's only so much land here in Baltimore County. We're confined by the ERDL, so it's very important that we revitalize the spaces that we have available to do so. Any questions?
Councilman Young, did you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, just if I could reiterate and add to the comments where we have a unique opportunity that we've all been discussing related to Security Square Mall in District 1. This is the first time that the county government has owned a large swath of land for the purpose of redevelopment. In the past, there has arguably been a tacit approach from county government when it comes to development or redevelopment of an area, and has left it generally to folks that own that piece of property. This is the first time that I can find an example where the county will be playing an active role in executing a plan that's been guided by constituents, guided by residents, and that will require some form of public use, while at the same time trying to attract a developer where there will have to be some form of financial benefit, because no one's going to do it for free. This provides an opportunity and one of the tools that county government has to incentivize as well as attract the right type of developer to this particular area and this unique opportunity in the Security Boulevard corridor, not just to the Security Square Mall property. So thank you, Councilman Jones, for one, bringing it to my attention, including us, and thank you to the administration for the long discussion related to clarifying the benefit and long-term implications. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilman Young. Any questions? Councilman Patoka?
Yes. Question, just a couple of things, couple of observations and questions. Why are these two locations together in this single bill? Why would they be individual bills? I'm just curious why they got combined together.
You don't mind. I mean, basically, both of these properties represent unique opportunities on the west side of Baltimore County. Both of them have required attention from the government. For example, the Metro Center, a lot of people don't know that. That property was a parking lot and is still owned by the state of Maryland. And as Councilman Young said, we've been investing in Security Mall to get that done. So here's an opportunity where both properties are sort of, like I said, at different stages, but require some of the same incentives to get them going and keep them going.
I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like on the Metro Center, that has come before the council maybe one or two times in the past and has not moved forward on either occasion. And I didn't know if there's something new why it would move forward now, or does are they combined for tactical reasons? Because there are other properties too that we might want to consider attaching to this bill if it's to be a broader bill. But I understand that there's lots of locations where we should provide incentives, perhaps even where we have food deserts, we should provide incentives for grocery stores where, in Councilman Crandall's district, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Councilman Crandall, but the Gerspec in Logan Village has been gone for a little while. And, why wouldn't we attach that to this? Or any other place where we need to incentivize, or even in your district, Councilman Jones, the Giant in Newtown, or that used to be in Newtown. Why wouldn't we, if we're looking at different areas that need to be incentivized, why wouldn't we include all of these, and why are these two specifically co-located in the same bill?
Well, go ahead.
So can't speak for, in terms of, I guess, original drafting the bill. I can speak for the fact that being brought into it where there was a conversation around security that we've been involved with for over 10 years, even before getting here, that there was a need from, I guess, the administration to identify the future steps that have to take place with the Security Square Mall property. Again, I'll just focus on that because I can't speak to anything else about the bill. I understand like the focus of the need of talking about one-offs. The only thing I'll provide to this, and maybe why it's combined, maybe, I don't know, is the size here, because unbeknownst to me, I'd say I only knew this about 4 years ago, was when you do an overlay of the Security Square Mall property, it's the size of Old Town Annapolis, from the river to the Naval Academy, from the harbor to the State House, is the size that overlays almost perfectly between Route 70 and Security Boulevard, and then, well, the other entry point to 695 and Rolling Road. That is a huge, not just opportunity, but a huge piece of land that I think everyone on that side of town, and also that's involved in this conversation, recognizes as the need for redevelopment. I don't take away from the need of the other particular areas. I guess in terms of the framing of your question, I would say the size and scope, but I'm only speaking for Security Square, if that makes sense. But so to try and add other pieces at this point, at the second reading of or second consideration for the bill, I don't know of another area that's as large as security, and I imagine the total scope of the Metro Center project compared to some other areas where there are other incentives that the county has and local government has to try and incentivize the growth there. So I would just that's my response to that in terms of the Security Square Mall property.
And if and I'm glad you brought up the size and scope, Councilman Young, because I was going to say real simply, one size don't fit all, right? One tool is not used for every individual need. And surely we hear about the areas in terms of getting supermarkets. I work really, really hard to replace the Giant at Milford Mill, and thank God we have something going on there. We work really hard to replace the Shoppers that was vacant on Ricestown Road for 10, 12 years, and now we have a grocery outlet there. So we are certainly working on all of these locations. It's just that one tool doesn't fit all of those.
Agreed, but I'm just curious, it still seems odd because Metro Center is in a completely different phase than Security Square Mall. Metro Center, one, it's a TOD with the subway. And it's a, really forward-thinking development where you have the metro right there and you have residential and mixed use. But it seems to be at a completely different development stage than Security Square Mall. So again, it's just odd that these two are coupled together in a single bill. To me, it's, I don't know, it seems like it's apples and oranges.
And the only other thing I'll add is there's going to be some affordable housing components that's going to be built in to at least the Metro Center and possibly Security Mall also. So it goes back to one size doesn't fit all. One tool is not good for everything. And that's pretty much it.
I'm still not clear, but I'll stop.
I didn't mean it,
No.
I didn't know if you were finished your question. Councilman Cran?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So I want to be clear on a couple things with this bill. So currently, the tax credit for a improved property over $10 million, the current term is 5 or 10 years. Do I have that correct, Mr. Secretary or our auditor?
10. 10.
10 years? Okay, fiscal note says 5 or 10 years, but so 10 years would be the max anyway currently. So this bill takes the tax credits for these two particular properties to, let's see, over $10 million approved, to 30 years, correct? So there's a 200% increase in the time. So, Ms. Irwin?
Just to clarify, the tax credit currently can continue for 5 years if it's under 10 million.
Okay.
And over, is it over 5 million? Is that?
If it's over.
Is it just, no, but if it's over 10 million, then it can continue for 10 years.
Copy that.
And it says that. It says, or 10 years if the qualified improvements exceed 10 million.
Copy that. All right, I got it. So it's the 30-year term and increasing it to 30 years as opposed to doubling it or going to 15 years or 20 years. Where did the 30-year term, where did that number come from?
All right, go ahead.
And not to speak out of turn either, but and again, my being brought in here to talk about security property.
Right.
As Ms. Irwin had mentioned too about the limits related to size already that were in place, I think that the general consensus and also why there was agreement from the administration in working towards this to try and attract the right developer, the right partner for this project with the county was the potential estimated value of those improvements that even Ms. Irwin had referenced that are undefined at this point. Whether if you wanted to try and like break it down, you could make the argument that it should be longer than 30 years based on the calculation of improvements exceeding $10 million because I don't know about you, but the size.
Security Square is going to be much more than $10 million, absolutely.
Right, and so
you're taking into account the 30-year term, sorry to cut you off, the 30-year term is taking into account the scale of the potential project.
You said it better than I did.
Okay.
And it also has some ramifications with affordable housing units that is going to be introduced at the Metro Center.
Okay.
And the administration is supportive of the bill.
So, Ms. Irwin, in your downtime, is it possible to go along with Councilman Patoka's point of, we've had a history in Baltimore County, the CRDs, when they work well, but they don't work often enough, it doesn't appear. Like we have some pretty stagnant CRDs around Baltimore County. I think we probably all do in each of our districts. What would be, and I know it's hard because you don't have hard numbers to work with because it's a hypothetical, but what would be the fiscal impact of extending out anything over $10 million beyond 10 years to 15 or 20 or even to 30 if we did it maybe countywide or did it by legislation such as this? I'd like to kind of have a little bit of an analysis on what that may look like to see if our CRDs could be higher performing if we increase the tax incentive.
it would be basically a hypothetical analysis, though, to show you that, if the development were a certain size development,
Yeah, you're going to
what
have
would
to just,
the benefit be?
you're going to have to pull some numbers out of thin air about what a particular project would be from 10 million to,
Just to give you an idea of how much we're talking about in terms of property tax forgiveness.
right.
I mean, I would just be doing a hypothetical
Just be a
analysis.
just kind of do a
but not
yeah, the
really
scale
seeing
from-
it wouldn't be able to show you when would that actually spur development? Like at what point would a developer find it advantageous?
Incentive worthy.
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right, go ahead, Councilman. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'd also be interested in that information for, I think, either a side point or overarching point of how do we activate the tools that we currently have available? And going back and thinking about District 1, I could probably fit 8 or 9 CRDs that currently exist in Baltimore County just in the Security Square Mall space, only from a size of scale. And,
Your acreage.
and,
Scale, yeah.
and thinking about, where it's, at some point, it's expected to be a tear down job and rebuild versus a lot of these CRDs that have aging infrastructures that are intended to incite redevelopment and revitalization. I'm not taking it because I would be interested. I'm just trying to, I guess, show the juxtaposition of the size and scale versus, I guess, some of the tools we've used in the past to try and reinvigorate some of our aging economic corridors. But still be interested. I just, in comparison, I want to, and let's get it and talk about it. But hope if we still don't have it, it's still a question if it's something we could work on together and not, I guess, stifle what we're trying to do at a new space.
I'm not trying to apply my request for some sort of analysis to this particular bill, but it does bring up the question, and Councilman Patoka raised it, that maybe we should look at increasing the amount of our incentives inside of the programs that we already have.
Gotcha.
That's my only impetus for bringing that up. My second question on this particular bill is, as far as I understand how a CRD works and how the tax credit works for improvements, you can't double dip. So you can't be in a CRD and take an enterprise zone property tax credit or tax incentive at the same time. But this bill would allow for a double dip on a TIF, would it not? Am I reading the fiscal note correctly on that?
I was under the impression that that was not the case.
Right.
But specifically,
Well, so I'm reading on page 16. Bill 6125 expands the combining restriction so that it also extends the tax increment financing. Now, does that mean that it is allowing for a CRD property to be available be eligible for a TIF?
I think we
or
might
is
be
it is it prohibiting it from being a TIF? What does the bill do?
I think we might be conflating the commercial revitalization district program with this revitalization property tax credit. They are two separate things. The CRD program, as you all know, because you often amend the boundaries or create new CRDs or what have you in trying to enhance redevelopment. That is a different program. It has certain of its own tax advantages or tax incentives, and then it has the architect on call, and you can get grants and things like that. That is different than what Bill 61 does with respect to the revitalization property tax credit.
Okay, but I guess I'm confused, Mr. Secretary, because the fiscal note reads, Bill 6125 expands the combining restriction so that it also extends to tax increment financing while establishing an additional exception whereby the revitalization property tax credit may be combined with another tax credit, payment in lieu of taxes, or TIF, if the administrator certifies that the qualified improvements are not necessary to secure payment of any debt funded by the applicable tax increment revenues on the basis of the most recent reassessment of such improvements. Can I have that translated? I'm not sure where you are. I'm on page 16,
Mr. Chairman.
Second paragraph of Bill 6125. I'm not trying to belabor it, but I just want to make sure I'm understanding this bill.
I don't, but it looks like he does.
Who does?
It looks like Brad's trying to get, I was trying to get your attention to get attention that Mr. Croner was trying to say something about it.
A member's
If, I know, I'm not trying to break it up. And you haven't called Mr. Croner up yet. Wait, you haven't been called up yet. I just was bringing attention to that.
Please approach the bench.
That's all.
Oh, you go, Judge Michael Ortel.
Apologies for my hastiness. So I'm reading page 7 of the bill on line 15 to 19. This says the property tax credit granted under this section may not be combined with any other tax credit or payment in lieu of taxes applicable to the qualified improvements or tax increment financing. So as I read it, I don't know that they can be combined.
The fiscal note's probably.
So as a fiscal note, is it just confusing? Is it?
I'm seeing the same thing you are.
Is I mean, the only reason I bring it up is because we know that most tax incentive programs, you can't double dip. And the way that I read the fiscal note says that this bill would allow for a double dip.
Would under that kind of discrete section or that discrete language that is being added to the bill on page 7 that Mr. Croner alluded to, where it says, unless the administrator certifies that the qualified improvements are not necessary to secure payment of any debt funded by the applicable tax increment revenues on the basis of the most recent reassessment of such improvements.
I think we're going to have to take this up offline, because I'm still not clear, and I don't know if a couple of my colleagues are clear,
So,
to be honest.
I mean, I'll say this, and I'm happy to take it offline. One, this isn't my bill. One of the questions that was asked during this process that led to even, combining or bringing the security squad mall process in was, is there an opportunity to double dip? Because this is supposed to be an incentive for the purpose of redevelopment, not for loopholes that are benefiting one particular developer over other folks that might be working in the county. And it was clearly stated that you can't double dip from the beginning. That also made me feel comfortable with it. But I understand from the language is that if you're, in the course of 30 years, and this is a conversation we can continue offline, but my understanding from just the language and what you're reading, over the course of 30 years, by a benefit from the tax incentive benefit, and you've been developing a portion of your parcel, and it's been completed, and there is some other piece, as you're reading it, and again, let's keep talking offline, that if that piece is complete, and then you can apply for tax increment financing on another improvement to something that's already benefited from that 30-year construction or the tax benefit, you can get that potentially if you get it approved from the administration or from the folks, if they determine that that request isn't tied to the 30-year tax increment financing that you were getting, sorry, not tax increment financing, from the original benefit that applied to the entire property. Let's keep talking, but that's how I'm seeing it. But let's make sure we're all on the same page about it, because the intent was not to allow a double dipping situation.
Fair enough, fair enough. And I'm not, I'm not necessarily opposed to the bill. The 7th District has been the beneficiary of numerous forms of public financing for Trade Point Atlantic, which has turned out to be a really big success. So I'm not opposed. I just want to make sure that we're not creating something that puts the county in a difficult position where we are having a developer sort of double dip on tax incentives, where maybe just one would have been good enough, or maybe, to your point, it's just a matter of timing. You get 15 years into the project, maybe it's appropriate then to go for something like a TIF. I'm not sure, but I think that's a discussion we can have.
Thank you, Councilman Young. Councilman Crandall, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, just a question for the sponsors. Is there any interest or desire to separate these into two separate bills? Because I see one or two paths here. One is whether they should be individual bills, because there gives us the option of having more flexibility in kind of how we review this. Or secondarily, do we include, we maybe have the planning department identify other large development areas to include in this bill. But I think optimally, I think separating these two, because as I've mentioned, the Metro Center portion of it has come before the council, I think, several times in the past. And I don't know that it had moved forward. So just like to have that option in place.
Well, again, this is the second reading. We're ready to vote next week. We put it together because we thought both of these needed the incentive, and both of these, this tool would fit both of these developments. As it relates to the Metro Center coming before, it was always an issue with the affordable housing component. We were always trying to work something out with the affordable housing piece with the administration. We did not want to move forward without that. So now I think we've come to a point where we have a number that everybody has agreed on. And so here we are trying to move forward. I look forward to working with the planning department or anyone else in terms of trying to revitalize any sections of Baltimore County that need it. Clearly, as you indicated, there are places that can use some help. And I think we should do what we can to help them, but not necessarily stop this because we haven't done everything we can for every place in Baltimore County.
Okay. Well, and then the question is, does every developer from this point on that is building a large-scale project want a 30-year tax credit? And are we prepared to give them tax credits every time anybody wants to spend 10 million, which seems somewhat low? And I think at Security Mall, we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars. Metro Center probably as well. But 10 million, the 10 million threshold doesn't seem like a lot of money these days to give a 30-year tax credit.
Mr. Chairman, and to your point too, it's money spent, but also expected value too. So I mean, in terms of what it is now compared to investment in and how much the property, what would be tied to it after construction or development. But to your other point, there are other incentives now where if I would say but if somebody went after this now for one of the larger projects, it would already be using a calculation that's in place, but would be limited because they can't automatically get something that's larger, that's long, where if it's already limited, where a developer can obtain special tax incentives on projects that are below 10 million. And when it goes above that, then they, I guess, would need to approach and come to us to make that determination. But I agree with you too, in terms of limited scope. And I guess determining what is the size that would determine a conversation around changing it to address what that potential impact would be over a number of years or decades.
Right. I mean, we are basically telling the county council and the county for the next 30 years to 2055 that, sorry, no property tax on these properties. And that's obligating future councils to a lot. Especially since we have more poverty in the county than we've ever had. Our income tax base is slowly eroding as well, which may constitute a property tax increase in the future, which we haven't had in, what, Councilman Jones, 37 years?
20-some years. But the bottom line is, I certainly don't support any tax increase.
We might be trapped.
Well, I mean, if we look at every person that moves in these places, and if you take the Metro Center, for example, how much taxes that we receive off of the parking lot? Because all of this stuff is built on the parking lot. And right now, today, we receive over $1 million in taxes on the Marriott Hotel itself. $1 million come to the coffers of Baltimore County every year. You look at the library and the community college, they pay $1 a year for being there. That's the cost to the citizens of Baltimore County to have that library and that community college and the Metro Center, $1 a year. So every person that lives in those apartments, they're paying income taxes. And everybody that goes there and buys something at one of the stores, they're paying taxes. So to be quite honest, I wish we lived in a world where we did not have to incentivize baseball teams and football teams and businesses. And I wish we lived in that world, but unfortunately, this is where we are, where we have to incentivize these things to get them done.
And to your point,
including Trade Point Atlantic. I wish we didn't have to.
sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Also to your point, let's not forget the fact that all incentives that the county provides, whether they be through tax increment financing or through other forms of tax abatement so that we can incentivize a particular area, or when we identify CRDs for redevelopment, there is a picture on a map and a shape on a map that covers a particular area. But the incentivization isn't just about that particular area, it's about the surrounding area as well, about what it can bring to the county. If what it's doing now with nothing being done versus what could be there when an incentive is provided. And I would just say from, again, going back to the scope, I think we've all sort of discussed the hodgepodge nature of having a property owner own a piece of property that's zoned appropriately, and then once getting certain approvals, building something, and we have individual economic corridors that seem to be a mix of car dealerships, but also strip malls, and no real planning tied to it other than it was zoned appropriately and you can build what you want there. I would hate to see a large property like Security Square Mall have to be somehow parceled out to only developers that could handle one particular piece, and then not have a cohesive sort of vision that's been worked towards over the last 5-10 years because of the fact that there wasn't an ability for one developer to come in and then execute that vision with the incentives that we have available to us. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, and my concern is probably similar to what I think Councilman Patoka voice was, how do, or maybe it was Councilman Crandall, you know, how do we go from 5 to 10 to 30? Like, where does the 30 come from? Who came up with that? Who, is it the administration? Is it the planning department? Who goes from?
Just one final comment, Mr. Chair, if I could. Just, that's one of the reasons I feel like these two properties should be decoupled, is because one may warrant the incentive and one may not warrant the incentive. And given the council the flexibility of making that decision, I think is a prudent way to move forward. Thank you.
Okay.
We have one speaker, Mr. Chair. Carla Nelson Chambers.
Good afternoon. This is Carla Nelson Chambers. I'd just like to know if I can be heard.
Yes.
Okay. My name is Carla Nelson Chambers. I am the board chair of the newly formed West Baltimore County Redevelopment Authority. And I'd like to be able to read our support for this bill, if I may.
Absolutely, Ms. Chambers. Good having you here tonight.
Hi, sir. How are you? Our board met on Wednesday, September 24th, and we were informed about this particular bill coming up. And so I'd just like to read to you, and we have submitted it to the county administration and for the record. So if I need to submit it to the county council, please let me know. Please find below our comments submitted on behalf of the West Baltimore County Redevelopment Authority regarding Bill 61-25. As you know, the Redevelopment Authority is a new quasi-government agency whose purpose is to provide for residential, commercial, or industrial development or redevelopment in furtherance of the public interest in according with the provisions of Baltimore County Bill number 40-23, section 26-2-101 of the County Code, and section 12-803 of the Economic Development Article of the Maryland Annotated Code. The West Baltimore County Redevelopment Authority's catchment area is inclusive of the Woodlawn Commercial Revitalization District, the Security Square Mall site, which is identified as one of the 2 target areas in Bill 61-25. The West Baltimore County Redevelopment Board of Directors supports Bill 6125 for the following listed below reasons. The redevelopment of Security Square Mall has been contemplated for over 2 decades and remains the biggest new mixed-use development opportunity, not just within the redevelopment catchment area, but countywide. 2, after years of planning, a lengthy charrette process, development of a vision document, and several property acquisitions, we believe that the time is near when Baltimore County can begin soliciting proposals for the development industry and for the redevelopment of Security Square. Number 3, our hope is that there is much interest in this property from potential developers as possible. And Bill 61-25 will provide an incentive that should spur interest and lead to more and higher quality proposals. 4, a robust, high quality redevelopment project at Security Square will benefit the work of the Redevelopment Authority because it will increase opportunities and property values along the Security Boulevard corridor. Based on the statements above, we ask that the Baltimore County Council supports this long-awaited project and vote yes. Now, I understand that there are some additional conversations that need to take place. And so if you all need another support letter in the future, please let us know. But we support this bill in the spirit of which it's been given, and also underscoring the things that Councilman Young has indicated. With that, again, thank you and sincerely, Carla Nelson Chambers, Chair of the West Baltimore County Redevelopment Authority. And thank you for this time.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers. Councilman Patoka, did you have a question?
Yes.
For Ms. Chambers?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Chambers, Ms. Nelson Chambers. Appreciate your testimony. And just to be clear, the Security Square Mall is in the catchment area for the West Baltimore Economic Development Council, but Metro Center is not. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, you are. Yes, it does. That Metro Center is totally outside of our catchment area.
So your comments are specific to Security Square Mall?
Yes, anything that's in our catchment area. And we know that this bill not only assists Security Square Mall and the development and the developers we're hoping to get, but all the contiguous properties around it. You know, it's like the anchor piece.
Of course, yes, thank you. And I know you have a broad experience in these kinds of, in this subject matter. Did the West Baltimore County Economic Development Authority, did it ever get a chance to review the thresholds for what qualifies, the 5 million, the 10 million, and then up to the $30 million thresholds?
We've had some board members look at some of that information, and they are aware of it. One of our board members was concerned about the fiscal note, and the very conversations you all are having this evening. One of our board members, two of our board members were saying the same thing because they are very familiar with the process. That's why I said in the spirit of this bill and what it's allowed to do, we support it. We would like to be able to hear once that the fiscal note and other things are flushed out, then we can come back and be able to speak to that.
So that would be good. You have a very talented group of members on the authority. So thank you for your testimony, Ms.
you, sir.
Nelson James.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, and I think that was the only speaker, correct? Okay. All right. Anything else before we move on? No? Okay. What is next?
Do you want me to do 62, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, we'll move to 6225 to zoning regulations for hookah and vapor lounges, on-site security. Are you going to handle that, Mr. Secretary?
Briefly.
Is Councilman Catch here? No? Okay.
The bill, this is the bill's second consideration. The bill would establish a security requirement for hookah and vapor lounges. Last year, the council established a number of regulations related to hookah and vapor lounges, including video surveillance, all in the name of security. This would add a specific security requirement in that security personnel would be required at an appropriate level during the periods that the hookah lounge is open, hookah or vapor lounge is open. I believe Mr. Catch and his staff have been discussing specifying what an appropriate level would be. So I think they are in the process of discussing that, and there might be an amendment to the bill related to that.
Okay. And there is an amendment to that bill as well.
There is one that is already posted. I believe it's sponsored by yourself, Mr. Chairman, and it would be related to grandfathering in relation to that 200-foot requirement.
Yes. Okay. All right. Any questions about the bill? We don't have speakers on this one, do we? Okay. All right. And then we have Bill 6325, which is also from Councilman Catch, zoning regulations, CCC overlay districts, restrictions on first-story apartments.
Yes, sir. And this bill, Bill 6325, eliminates, generally speaking, it essentially eliminates the prohibition currently on residential uses for the first story of a building in the CCC overlay district if the commercial uses are located in other buildings on the property or within a certain distance. I believe it is 1,000 feet to the property. So there have been other bills that have kind of chipped away at that prohibition for elderly housing, for example, and this would eliminate that prohibition completely. My understanding is the rationale is the changing retail habits that have occurred over time, such that requiring retail on the first floor is in favor of, or instead of allowing residential, has not really evolved with the times.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Sir.
And we don't have any speakers on this as well. Okay. Any questions or concerns from the members? We're missing 2 members. Okay. Next up, we have Bill 6425. This is from Councilman Marks, Metropolitan District wastewater user charges.
Yes, this extends the period of time to request a review of annual Metropolitan District wastewater user charges. Currently, any person liable for wastewater user charges assessed by the Metropolitan District who disputes those charges may, within a 240-day period after mailing of the bill, request that the Department of Public Works and Transportation Director review the charges imposed. This bill extends that window from 240 days to 365 days. We've heard of situations where new property owners come into possession of a home and they're unaware of these charges that are pending before them. This simply gives a little more flexibility to the Director of Public Works in reviewing those charges.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Marks. And I don't think we have any speakers on this as well. Any questions? All right.
And I have talked to the Director of Public Works about this bill.
Okay, great. We have, the next bill we have is 6525, and this is Historic and Architectural Preservation Appeals, which I guess is resubmitted.
Yeah, and I think we're finally coming to the end on this one, and a positive end as well. So this bill deals with appeals from the Landmarks Preservation Commission. It says that there will be an appeal of a decision by the LPC within 30 days. We have coordinated with the administration and the the Baltimore County Preservation Alliance. I think they are comfortable with the amendments that we're proposing. This improves, I think, the spirit of what we're trying to do in terms of protecting historic properties. It provides for an appeal process, not just for those who want to see something protected, but also for a property owner whom we disagree with that decision. The amendments will do that.
Okay. And I think we have a speaker as well.
Yes, I believe Ms. Gershon wants to speak on this item and the next bill. Let me pull her up.
Hello.
You may begin your testimony when you're ready.
Yes, hello. And with bill number 65, while we would prefer that it just be for appeals for declined landmark nominations, if the council prefers, we're open to appeals being both for the approval and disapproval of nominations. We feel strongly that our Board of Appeals has experience to hear these cases and rule fairly, and also that an appeal to the Board of Appeals is the final stop for this process. So again, we do think that it is fair and in order. So we do approve that bill. The amendment to that bill.
Yeah, and thank you, Ann, very much. I mean, I think when you came to us over the summer about the Landmarks Preservation Commission, you were most concerned about improving dialogue, openness, and transparency. And I think this does this, right? It improves dialogue on both sides.
Well, I think, our concern is first of all to protect historic buildings. So that's our paramount mission and concern. But we definitely want to be able to, but the dialogue that we're especially interested in is that for the public to be able to speak. But I'll talk a little bit more about that with the next bill/amendment. So.
Right. I think this bill, coupled with Councilman Patoka's demolition bill, will really be some steps forward. And I want to thank you for your partnership.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Marks. Okay, so next up we have, I was 6625, we have 6725. Councilman Young, zoning regulations, uses permitted in the office building. Did I miss one? All right, well, we'll do 67 and then we'll come back. We were on 66. We have 65 as well. Appeal, I'm sorry. So there was appeals and now there's a second bill that's
related to their meetings.
I got excited about landmarks. We've had a lot of landmarks bills. Okay, so 6625. Meetings and hearings, Councilman Marks.
I don't think we're quite there on this bill. The original concern was that the meetings of the Landmarks Preservation Commission were not allowing for adequate participation, dialogue. I think we've had some good discussions with the administration and with the LPC. The administration's proposed some positive dialogue, and Mr. Croner, I'd like to ask you to talk about that. We're not quite there, but I think we're getting closer.
Okay. And do we have any speakers on 66?
Ms. Gershon also wants to speak on this item as well.
Ms. Gershon, How are you?
Hi, how are you all again? Do you want to maybe read the amendment first? Because I just want to make sure we're speaking about the same amendment for this one. Is that still on board, or?
You want to?
I just want to make sure that,
Absolutely.
that I'm referring to if you don't mind. Thank you.
The amendment, there are essentially two amendments. The one would strike the paragraph that would require all meetings and hearings of the commission to be held in person. And would also, and then the second amendment would add an uncodified section that would state that the Department of Planning and the LPC are formally requested to explore the viability of hybrid and in-person meeting formats for the commission's meetings.
Okay. Ms. Grisham, did you?
Thank you. In this case, we would not support that because the language would just ask the planning department and the Landmarks Commission to only be, quote, formally requested to explore the viability of hybrid and in-person meetings, and that's really not adequate. As proposed, the planning department and the Landmarks Commission could easily decide they don't want to hold hybrid or in-person meetings, and it's paramount that the residents of Baltimore County be able to fully participate, and that should be something that's been greatly encumbered with the online-only meetings. Hybrid meetings, again, if you know, we're not, you know, set in stone with having everything have to be completely in person, but hybrid meetings, we're very open to that, and that would allow for those who wish to speak to participate in person, and those who have to be online, they would have the equal ability to attend. And again, they could be heard, and we would go back to the pre-COVID meetings where there was much more of a back and forth, and obviously with, you know, some standard restrictions in terms of length of speaking and things of that nature. But those are far more open meetings, and there was quite a bit of back and forth, and people weren't muted on a regular basis or sometimes not even allowed to speak. That was not the case beforehand with the in-person meetings. But again, hybrid is fine, you know, by us as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Grisham. Any questions for the speaker? Councilman Marks.
And I thank you very much. Candidly, I'm still up in the air on this. You know, our meetings are hybrid. Baltimore County Council's meetings are hybrid. They work very well, Cedar Point. So we'll just have to continue to talk this over the next couple of days. But thank you very much for your testimony. You've brought some very good concerns to the forefront. I appreciate that.
I appreciate everyone's time, and thank you again.
Okay. Was there, Mr. Croner, you didn't have anything to add to this, did you? Come on up.
So I don't have much more to add except just to say thanks, Councilman Marks, for working with us on the amendments to 65 and 66. Appreciate the conversation that we've continued to have. That's really all I have. Value the partnership.
Okay. So I'm clear with 6625. I can move to 6725. Councilman Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill 6725 permits the storage of construction equipment under certain circumstances in office building residential zones OR1. Specifically, it permits the storage of construction equipment in such storages that is related to state highway construction projects. It also has a sunset of November 1st, 2027, which would conclude the life of the project that's being done. So I'll just a little context, because I think this came up during one of the other longer work sessions. A contractor working in the district had contacted me because they had won a bid for work being done on 695, not just in the district, but around the entire district. And apparently they are left to their own devices on where they need to store their equipment. They've successfully stored it in other areas, but for some reason, they got cited, came to us and asked if there was anything that could be done and it seemed to make sense from the administration and other folks talking to them, as long as it's related to a specific project related to the highways and safety, that it seemed silly to not allow for an opportunity for someone that has the bid to do that work to have easy access to that space. Right now, what wasn't worked into their bid was the fact that now they are fighting a citation because of where they were storing their equipment, but also they had to move their equipment somewhere further away from where the job is, which puts their folks at risk and also delays the length of the project. So this has a sunset date. It's limited in scope. There was a request by the organization if we could backdate the implementation date. I have not gotten clarification on whether I feel that's appropriate yet. So between now and the day that we vote on this, if I do determine an amendment is necessary to backdate, I'll make sure to circulate it well in advance of the 10 a.m. deadline. So with that, happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Okay. All right. And I don't think we have any speakers on this one. Can't imagine it. Okay.
And this is first consideration, so you have plenty of time.
Oh, that was okay. I thought I talked about it before, so all good. Thank you.
It is first, right? Yeah.
Next time we may have 30 speakers on 6725.
That's right.
Can't wait.
And I believe that may be all we have tonight. Is that? I'm not used to this. I feel like we're good for
Still light
another
out
2-3 hours at least.
We have 3 more hours left in us at least.
Anybody want a pizza?
Oh, yeah, now you're offering pizza.